Hello everyone, it's time. We're here. It's Dark Tales with Zelda time, or of Zelda, or with Zelda, or from Zelda. Whatever the case may be, you are here with me and it is story time. Now, based on my notes that I had from years ago, I've got my little notebook filled with all kinds of little notes and the cards, the particular cards that have been laid out. So I'm going to say this. This call caught me off guard, and usually calls don't catch me off guard. This one did. This was a very excruciating call to get through because I felt the pain of the other person. It was a young lady calling me. She was having paranormal activity in her home. Now, these are the cards that I made notes that I'd laid out, and I have a playing card deck here that I'm also going to show you the cards. And what happened was she said initially she was having some sleepless nights. And as we got into this, she said she had to just remain so strong because she had bought a house, that it was an old house. It was actually in the state of Virginia. It was one of these homes that had a lot of historic value to it. So she started seeing an apparition, a full body apparition, but it wasn't quite full body. There was an arm that was missing and the head was missing as well. And she said she would, especially at night, see this apparition roam the hall. She would see it go from one room to the next. So she would be sitting in her living room and she would see going from her den or her parlor into the kitchen, and she would follow it and it would be gone. She would also hear disembodied voices, voices that would call her name, and especially at night wake her up. And she said it just got to the point where it was so annoying she was not scared any longer. So she wanted to know what it was. So she said that she was manifesting the answer from whatever it was that was there, the full-bodied apparition. And she said she just felt that she was imprisoned in her own home. It's very obvious here with this card. She's manifesting, very obvious with that. What I picked up was that her strength came from wisdom. But it's very interesting here, this judgment card, and we're going to talk about that. But it was painful for her. She didn't get any sleep. It was painful. And she hesitated to make decisions about what she should be doing with the house because, as it seemed, when she would be trying to even wallpaper, the activity would just heighten and increase. And she was on edge, not so really frightened, but on edge. I mean, let's think about it. If you see something like that, you're going to be at the least startled. Well, she was not aware, but she was an empath, and I think there was some family that had been in her family ancestry that were empaths. She just never really paid attention to it. She said she always thought it was intuition, which, yes, it can be. So she says that she's really meditating on things. But there was a day that some things came to her. And she said that day, now you see this card underneath, she started drawing boundaries. How this apparition could appear in her house. She would have an apparition that would almost respond to her. Now, why was that? Well, you can see here in this particular card, because look, this card, this person, this woman sitting here, looks very vulnerable, doesn't she? It looks like she's blinded. It looks like blindfolded, rather. She's on the edge of a sea. She could be washed away at any moment. She doesn't know what's coming from one side or the other. It's night. She's feeling vulnerable. And yet, I want to show you something And let's see if we can focus. Oh, yes. Do you see that white dot right there in that card? That means that many times when you're at your most vulnerable, your third eye or your intuition will be opened and will be heightened. And that's what was happening with her. She was forming her boundaries around the house because, after all, it was her that bought it, and she felt like she was imprisoned there. She hesitated to do it. But the reason that this judgment card comes out is very simple. You see, this judgment card looks really innocent. Okay, so there's an angel, and it's a benevolent angel calling. And in the natural, this just looks like these people. They don't have any clothes on, sorry, but they're people. But let's take a closer look. These people are gray. They're in boxes. What is that? Look, there's some in the background as well. When you see these cards, always look at the elements that you see in the cards. This means this judgment card, this angel, is awakening the dead. Now, what does that mean in theory? In theory and in other readings, and this card really means that you are being awakened. There may be something that you're not feeling well about, or that you have neglected or distracted, and all of a sudden something happens that you feel like you just have a new lease on things. But in this particular case, I noticed, look at this. There had to be something with that property and with that history. So then she found out later on, after doing a little genealogy on the home itself, that this home was involved in a conflict between the states. When she told me this, I knew it most likely was the Civil War. So she said she forgot about it. She went out to her garden that next spring and started digging around, and she rented one of these, more of an industrial machine that could really turn over the ground. And she decided to dig up a few areas of the garden area to plant some trees. So she had to dig pretty deep because she was going to also get some trees that were not seedlings. They were grown and they required a bulb, for the root system to be into the ground pretty deep. What did they find? They found a human arm, a skeleton, a bone, with the hand intact, about halfway up to the elbow, about right here. And then they found a partial skull. Part of the skull was not there. That was above the eye. And obviously, she said it looked like there was a blow to this skull. What a find, right? No wonder. So she started digging a little deeper. And as creepier as this went, here we find, okay, so we started laying out the cards. And here, that is the Ace of Spades. That is a loss, but can be equivalent to the Death card in the tarot card. So there is the 10 of Spades, which also is a loss card and can be a death card. And in this particular situation, it definitely pointed toward what she had found. So she started asking me about who this gentleman was. This gentleman, from what I can see, was someone who owned a lot more land than what she was aware of. He was wealthy, based on the times. He owned a lot of property. He owned a lot of different businesses. He was wealthy in livestock, wealthy in crops. He was just all around wealthy. But what happened? Well, let's see. You see, there was a hidden secret. There was a secret that had gone through the ages. And that right there was this hidden secret, this hidden something or other, right? And what was that? this fellow right here is the Jack of Spades. Now you can't really see him, but this card deck is really good. Maybe if I pull it out like that, you might be able to see it a little bit better. Of course, younger, someone who likes to drink, someone who's big on telling tall tales, someone who may want to deceive someone else. So, what happens then? Well, it's the Nine of Hearts. Now, the Nine of Hearts, aside from all of this, will mean yes. It means yes. It means the yes card, the heart's desire, wish fulfilled. But in this particular case, falling near this fellow, it means that he is not who he seems to be. He is pretending he's something or someone. And who is he doing that with? Is this fellow right here. So, what is this card? It's the Ace of Clubs. Let me put this down here so you can see that as well. That Ace of Clubs means that there is money, but it's also a timing card. Now, that timing card is the summer. So on further investigation, as she went through and as she found this, and of course they called the authorities and they had come in and she had several readings, and it turns out that this fellow was the property owner, like we had talked about early on. And she asked me about it, and that's what I told her, and she found out that that actually was true. But there was a young man who visited this property owner and basically said that he would like a job, he would like to work for him, he would like to be a part of the farm where they were. Unfortunately, it turned to evil. And in the investigation by my client, after she called me back a couple of months later, she found out that it was this young man who was suspected but never convicted of the murder of this man and buried him in the garden behind this house. They never found him, and I wonder why. I guess they never looked. He just disappeared, and they proclaimed him as being dead, but it was suspected of this man. So all this time, this fellow right here had been roaming the halls with no head and with no arm. Yes, that's correct, no head and no arm. And what they really suspected and thought and came to the conclusion was that this fellow pulled a gun, a weapon, and shot him. And while this man was holding up his arm to his face to protect himself, it shot off his arm and shot a portion of his head. That kind of got to me, but you know, you wonder about the stories of some of these. And while this isn't really that scary, it was scary for her, this disembodied apparition roaming the halls. It was after that she found this that there wasn't too much of the spotting of this gentleman again. And I think what it was is that she resolved and solved the mystery as much as it could have been. Sad about the whole thing, but in many diaries and documents that they found over the years, they all suspected this man who never benefited from the death of this one. You wonder what happened between the two of them, that things went wrong. I don't know. I wish I could have heard from her again. I never heard from her again, but this was very, very interesting. It's pretty dark when you think about it, but just think, it was a disembodied voice and this man who led the property owner to digging deeper and finding that he was not resting. Thank you so much for watching. Now stay tuned. We're going to have a little bonus content, okay? Little bonus content coming up. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And I'll continue to bring you more. So thank you so much for watching, and here we go. Hello again, everyone, and here is your bonus content for The Dark Tales of Zelda. That was a great story, and I've always wondered about that. I haven't really had enough of that story. I want to hear more. I know you do too. But here's your content. I'm going to just give you a little mini reading today to set you off for the day, the night, and there are some cards that fell out, and we're going to take them all. All right, here we go. We have the Queen of Wands, the Nine of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, the Judgment card, and the Six of Cups. Now, this is interesting because we have two cards here that we just saw in the last reading. And and this is a different deck. You'll see this is much smaller than that deck. Interesting, isn't it? Let's lay out three more. We have the Two of, and that was in there, the Two of Wands, the Page of Wands, and we have a celebration card that's the Three of Cups. Now, I want you to know that we have the Nine of Wands at the bottom of the deck. So what does all this mean? The Queen of Wands, I'm going to say her energy is a fire energy. The spirit animal for the King and Queen of Wands is a salamander. And why? Well, because a salamander is supposed to have made it and been tested by fire and can live through fire. And I think if you're seeing this today, you may have been what you feel, well, that you've been tested, and definitely so. You've been tested. You've tried to relax. You wanted things to be good. You've worked on things, but there's judgment here. Now, we talked about the Judgment card in that last reading, but in this last reading, because of this Two of Swords and the intuition that you have, it looks like you're going to be using good judgment because you have been awakened. Now, there's some hesitancy with you. What is the hesitancy? I want to show you this about this Six of Cups. Now, this looks innocent enough, right? This is a sweet little card, the only card in the tarot deck that has flowers in each of the cup. This means nostalgia. It means, well, memories. It can mean a lot of things, but there's another side. You see, in this particular card, and in the bigger card, there's someone in the background walking away. Now, I want to also show you something else. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if this will focus in for you. Maybe. Here, let's try. I want you to look at this little girl. So there's a little boy, there's the little girl, but let's look at this little girl. Look. Does that look like a face to you? Well, it's telling that there may be two sides to someone. Someone may be two-faced. It could mean that someone has a different personality with you than they do with others. It can mean a lot of things. But it also can mean that this card is based on your memories, your nostalgia. And what are you doing? You're hesitating. So I would not hesitate. This looks like this situation is you're hesitating and you're waiting. And I've got the message here to carry on. This page right here is announcing. A page is the one who carries a message. If you look at any type of medieval type history or even movies, if they want to send a message to someone, they give it to a page and he is the one who appears. This page is announcing that there is an opportunity ahead of you. There's no more hesitation, and even this card can be as good as it feels and as warm and fuzzy as it feels. There may be two sides to it. You're going to figure it out because you have your intuition turned on high. You know that there's something inside of you that's been awakened, that you just can't quench the thirst. You have to move on. You have to do it. You are directed. What is that going to lead to? Well, I've got to tell you this. This particular card right here means that you've done all you can do. Now it's just waiting. You're waiting to go to the next step. This is the Nine of Wands. And when the Nine of Wands appears, and oh boy, I like that card, we're going to say that is a new beginning for you. But when the Nine of Wands appears, that means you're getting ready to transcend, just transcend into the next phase of your journey. You've made it over the mountain, and you've made it through by being tested by fire. Now is the next leg of your journey. And last but not least, you will be celebrating. This is a high celebration card. I love this for you because I don't know if you can see or not. There's a little pumpkin here and there's some harvest vegetables. But I say a high celebration because it has to be something good for everybody to be raising their cups. And that is exactly what you are doing. This is an excellent reading for you because it tells of the transformation and transition of you going from being tested so toughly and coming through to the point where you can celebrate. You've hung in there. That's the message of this reading. You've made it through, and I'm so happy that you did. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned, and I will see you again. Thank you so much for watching these Dark Tales of Zelda. I really enjoy bringing them to you, and I hope that this reading has really resonated and inspired you. You've been an inspiration to others, and it's time for you to be inspired. Hang out just a little longer, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.